Imagine walking into a room and, within seconds, knowing exactly what people are feeling, without a single word being spoken. You sense tension before an argument begins. You feel sincerity before trust is earned. You detect deception before it's revealed. Understanding people isn't magic, it's mastery. It's the ability to see beneath the surface, to read the invisible language that most people miss. Every glance, every tone, every pause tells a story, and once you learn how to read that story, the world changes. Conversations become clearer, relationships become deeper, opportunities reveal themselves. This audiobook isn't about manipulation or control, it's about connection. It's about learning the language of the human heart, the emotional code that defines every interaction. By the end of this journey, you won't just talk to people, you'll understand them. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The Hidden Language of Humans. Most people walk through life surrounded by noise, the noise of voices, opinions, and constant motion. Yet almost no one truly hears what others are saying. We listen to words, but we miss meaning. We see faces, but we don't see people. And that's where the misunderstanding begins. Not in what we say, but in what we fail to notice. Imagine standing in a crowded room, laughter fills the air, conversations overlap, smiles flicker across faces. It all looks so alive, but look closer. Behind every smile there's a story. Behind every confident tone there's a question unspoken. A worry, a hope, a wound. Every person you meet is speaking in a hidden language, a language written not in words, but in energy, expression, and emotion. It's the small pause before someone answers a question, the quick glance to the side when they feel cornered, the subtle tightening of the jaw when they're holding something back. These are not random moments, they are signals, they are the truth behind the word. And if you learn to see them, to feel them, you unlock the doorway to real understanding, the kind that transforms how you connect, lead, love, and live. Understanding people instantly isn't a trick, it's not manipulation, it's awareness, the rarest form of intelligence in a noisy world. We've been taught to chase knowledge, to collect facts, to memorize data, but human connection doesn't live in the brain, it lives in the heart. It's the art of perceiving what's invisible, of feeling what someone cannot say. When you truly understand people, something extraordinary happens. You stop reacting, and you start responding. You stop judging, and you start empathizing. You stop assuming, and you start seeing the world through new eyes. Let me tell you something that most people never realize. Every interaction you have is a mirror. Every person you meet reflects a part of you, your patience, your insecurity, your compassion, your need to be understood. And the moment you start reading others clearly, you also start understanding yourself more deeply. Think about the times you've misread someone, the friend who seemed distant, so you pulled away, not knowing they were silently struggling, the coworker who appeared arrogant when, in truth, they were just afraid of not being good enough. The loved one who grew quiet, not because they stopped caring, but because they didn't know how to explain what was happening inside. When we don't understand people, we create distance, but when we learn to see them, we build bridges. The human heart is always speaking, but most of us are too busy waiting for our turn to talk. We listen to reply, not to connect. We analyze others, but rarely empathize with them. And yet, the moment you start observing instead of reacting, something magical begins. The noise fades, the truth emerges. There's a reason the world feels disconnected. We scroll more than we speak. We assume more than we ask. We filter our emotions, hiding behind polished masks of "I'm fine" and "everything's good." But beneath those masks, everyone is longing for the same thing: to be understood, to feel seen without needing to explain themselves, to be heard without being interrupted, to be accepted without being fixed. That's what this journey is about. not learning how to read people like a book, but learning how to feel people like a song. Because every person has a rhythm, a frequency that tells you who they are beyond their word. And once you tune into that frequency, connection becomes effortless. Here's the truth: every human being carries two stories, the one they tell the world, and the one they whisper in silence. Understanding someone instantly means learning to listen to both. You can start right now, not by studying psychology or memorizing cues, but by practicing stillness. Next time you're in a conversation, don't rush to fill the silence. Watch how someone's body shifts when they speak. Listen for the tremble behind their laugh. Notice how their energy changes when certain topics appear. People reveal themselves constantly. We just have to care enough to notice. And when you do, when you begin to see others as they are, not as they pretend to be, everything changes. Conversations deepen, relationships heal, conflicts dissolve, because understanding creates safety, and safety is where truth lives. This skill, this awareness, is your greatest power. It can help you connect with anyone, anywhere, from any background. It can strengthen your career, your friendships, your family, your love life, because when you understand others, you make them feel what the world rarely gives: genuine recognition. And here's a beautiful secret: the more deeply you understand people, the more deeply people begin to trust you, because trust isn't built through words, it's built through presence. When someone feels your attention, when they sense that you're truly there with them, not distracted, not judging, not waiting for your turn, they open, their guard drops, their truth surfaces. That's the moment connection happens, not in conversation, but in energy. So why does this matter? Because life moves fast, too fast. We're surrounded by technology that connects us, yet most of us feel more disconnected than ever. We crave belonging but live behind digital walls. We chase validation instead of understanding. But the truth is, when you understand others, you no longer need to control them, convince them, or outshine them. You simply connect, and in that connection, your influence grows effortlessly, because people follow those who make them feel seen. This is the foundation of everything to come: learning to observe, listen, and empathize at a level most people never reach. You're not just learning a skill, you're unlocking a new way of experiencing the world. And once you see life through this lens, through the eyes of awareness, you'll never be able to unsee it. You'll sense tension before it becomes conflict. You'll detect honesty before it's proven. You'll recognize sincerity before words confirm it. That's the quiet power of understanding. It gives you peace in a world of confusion, confidence in a world of noise, and connection in a world that's forgotten how to feel. So take this moment, this first step, as your awakening. From now on, when you look at people, don't just see their faces, see their emotions, see their energy, see their story, because every person is a universe, waiting to be understood. And as we move forward into the next chapter, you'll discover how to slow down, tune in, and experience what most never do: the art of truly seeing. It's time to go deeper. Chapter 2, Presence, the art of truly seeing. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine this. You're standing in front of someone you care about. You're talking, smiling, nodding, but something feels off. They're there, but not with you. Their eyes flicker, their phone buzzes, their thoughts drift miles away. You can sense it, can't you? That invisible wall between two people who are technically together, but not connected. Now imagine the opposite. Someone looks at you, really looks. Their eyes stay. Their energy doesn't waver. They're not thinking about what to say next or what they have to do later. In that moment, you feel seen completely, and something inside you softens. That is the power of presence. It's rare, it's magnetic, and it's the foundation of understanding anyone instantly. We live in a distracted world, a world that glorifies multitasking and confuses constant movement with progress. But connection doesn't live in speed, it lives in stillness. Presence is stillness made visible. When you are fully present, you send a silent message to others. I'm here, you matter, I see you. And that message, more than any word you could ever say, transforms how people feel around you. Most people think understanding others is about learning to read faces, decode body language, or master clever techniques. But none of that works if you're not here. You can't read people when your mind is elsewhere. You can't understand someone you're rushing past. You can't hear what they mean if you're only half listening. Presence begins where ego ends. It begins when you stop performing and start observing. Think of presence like a mirror. The clearer the mirror, the more accurately you can reflect the truth of what's in front of you. But when your mind is fogged with judgment, assumption, or distraction, everything becomes distorted. You start seeing people not as they are, but as your fears or biases paint them to be. Presence clears the fog. It returns you to reality, to what's actually happening in front of you. Let's get honest. When was the last time you truly listened to someone without thinking about your response? When was the last time you sat in a conversation without checking your phone, adjusting your thoughts, or comparing their story to yours? It's rare, isn't it? Because presence takes effort. It's uncomfortable at first. It requires you to slow down, to silence the endless stream of thoughts, to resist the urge to fill every pause. But the reward is extraordinary. When you become fully present, people sense it immediately. They relax, they open up, they reveal themselves without even realizing why. Because presence is safety. It tells the nervous system, you're safe to be real here. Every meaningful connection in your life, every friendship, every love, every moment of trust began with presence. Someone took the time to actually be there. Let me tell you something powerful. You can't fake presence. You can fake charm. You can fake confidence. You can fake politeness. But presence, people feel it. They feel it in the way your energy settles, in the way your eyes hold theirs, in the way your silence carries weight instead of awkwardness. And here's the deeper truth. Presence doesn't just help you understand others, it helps you understand yourself. Because when you slow down enough to truly notice someone else, you also start noticing your own emotions, reactions, and patterns. You start realizing how often you've been listening through filters of expectation or fear. You start seeing how often you project instead of perceive. Presence is the bridge between perception and truth. Here's a simple exercise. Next time you talk to someone, pretend time has stopped. For that moment there's no past, no future, only the now. Watch how your attention changes. Watch how their body language softens when they feel you're not trying to rush them, fix them, or outshine them. That shift, that quiet transformation, is understanding in motion. Presence is not about doing more, it's about being more attentive, being more aware, being more human. When you master presence, you no longer need to force connection. It happens naturally, because energy aligns with energy. When your energy is calm, grounded, and attentive, others instinctively match it. That's why some people make you feel peaceful just by being near them. They radiate presence. Think of someone in your life who has that effect, the person who makes you feel calmer just by entering the room. They're not always the loudest or most confident. Often they're quiet, but their silence speaks louder than noise. Their attention feels like light, steady, gentle, and warm. You can become that person, not by pretending, but by practicing. Every time you choose to be where you are fully, without distraction, you strengthen that muscle. And soon you'll notice that people start opening up to you in ways they never did before. Strangers will tell you stories they've never shared. Friends will seek your advice. Loved ones will feel safe in your presence. Because in a world full of noise, the one who listens deeply becomes unforgettable. Presence is not about controlling what happens in a conversation. It's about surrendering control. It's about allowing silence to exist, allowing truth to reveal itself, allowing the moment to be enough. That's where understanding lives, in the quiet space between words. So the next time you're with someone, resist the urge to perform. Put the phone down, take a slow breath, listen with your eyes, with your heart, with your intuition. Notice not just what's being said, but what's being felt. That's the beginning of seeing people clearly. That's how you move beyond hearing and into understanding. Presence is the art of truly seeing, not through analysis, but through awareness. And when you master that, you'll realize something profound. The more present you are with others, the more life becomes present with you. Moments stretch, colors seem richer, emotions feel deeper, time slows down, you stop existing in fragments and start living in wholeness. Presence isn't just how you connect with others, it's how you reconnect with life itself. So before we move forward, pause, feel this moment right here, right now. You're listening, you're breathing, you're aware. That's present, and that awareness you feel right now, that quiet focus, is the same awareness that allows you to understand anyone anywhere, in an instant. Because to understand others deeply, you must first learn to be deep. In the next chapter, we'll explore what lies at the heart of that being, emotion, the universal language that connects us all, even when words fall short. Let's go there together. Chapter 3, Emotions. The universal translator. Close your eyes and imagine this. You're walking through a foreign country. The language is unfamiliar, the signs unreadable, the sounds strange and distant. But then you see a child crying. Instantly, without needing words, you understand pain, sadness, fear. You don't speak the same language, yet you know. That is the power of emotion. It's the invisible bridge that connects every human being on earth. No matter where you come from, what language you speak, what faith you follow, emotion is the one language we're all born fluent in. A smile needs no translation. A tear speaks louder than 1,000 words. A sigh can reveal more than a confession ever could. To understand anyone instantly, you must learn to listen to emotion. Not as noise, but as music. Every human being plays their own emotional symphony. And if you listen closely enough, you'll begin to hear the rhythm beneath their words. Emotions are energy in motion. They don't lie. They can be disguised, buried, or restrained, but they can never be fully erased. You can hear it in someone's voice when they say, "I'm fine." You can feel it in their silence when they say nothing at all. The truth about human understanding is this. We think communication happens in language, but in reality, it happens in emotion. Words are just containers. Emotion is the content, and most of us spend our lives chasing words, missing what's inside them. Think of every argument you've ever had that spiraled out of control. Was it really about the words said, or the emotion underneath them? The tone, the timing, the tension in the air. That's where communication lives. Understanding someone's emotion is not about being sentimental or soft. It's about awareness, the kind of awareness that sees beyond performance and into truth. You can't connect with what you don't feel, and you can't feel what you refuse to notice. So start noticing. When someone speaks, notice their breathing. Is it fast or calm? When they laugh, does it sound light or forced? When they're silent, does the silence feel peaceful or heavy? People are constantly expressing emotion, even when they're saying nothing at all. The secret is to listen with your whole body. Your heart will recognize emotion before your mind names it. You'll sense tension in your chest when someone hides anger. You'll feel warmth in your belly when someone speaks with love. You'll feel a subtle unease when someone is being dishonest, even if their words sound perfect. This sensitivity is not weakness, it's wisdom, because emotion is the most honest thing about a person. When you meet someone, you're not meeting their words, you're meeting their energy. And energy is emotion made visible. Here's what most people get wrong about emotion. They think emotions are irrational, that feelings cloud judgment, but in truth, emotions are data. They're signals. They reveal what matters most to us. Fear shows what we want to protect. Anger shows what boundary has been crossed. Sadness shows what we've lost or what needs healing. Joy shows what's aligned with who we really are. So when you start reading emotion, don't just react to it, interpret it. Ask yourself, what is this emotion trying to tell me? When you understand the message behind an emotion, you stop being controlled by it, and you start learning from it. Now let's bring this to the people around you. Imagine you're talking to someone who seems cold or distant. Most people would take it personally, but someone who understands emotion sees differently. They don't see coldness, they see protection. They don't see distance, they see defense. They know that emotion often wears armor. Behind every angry person is someone who's been hurt. Behind every proud person is someone who's felt small. Behind every quiet person is someone who's learned that silence is safer than honesty. When you start seeing emotion this way, judgment disappears. You stop labeling people as difficult or unemotional. You begin to see the humanity underneath the behavior. And that's when true understanding begins. Emotion is the fingerprint of the soul. No two people express it the same way. Some speak through their eyes, some through laughter, some through silence, some through art, music or movement. But no matter how it's expressed, emotion is always truth trying to surface. Your job is to notice it, not fix it, to hold space for it, not rush it away. Because the moment someone feels that their emotions are safe with you, they trust you. And trust is the ultimate key to understanding. When you make space for another person's emotion, you tell them, you don't have to hide here. And that simple permission can change lives. Emotion is also what gives your intuition its power. Have you ever met someone and instantly felt uneasy, even though they were polite? That's your body reading emotional signals faster than your mind can explain them. It's intuition, emotion's quiet cousin. Speaking before logic catches up. Don't ignore those feelings. They're your most ancient form of intelligence. Humans survived not through words, but through emotional sensitivity. The ability to sense safety, danger or harmony in a split second. That wisdom is still within you. You've just forgotten how to trust it. When you allow yourself to feel more, you'll understand more. And when you understand more, you'll begin to connect on a level that most people never reach. Emotions are not problems to solve, they're stories to listen to. When you treat them that way, in yourself and in others, your entire way of relating transforms. Because now you're no longer trying to change people. You're trying to understand them. And that simple shift changes everything. Think of it like this. If language is what connects our minds, emotion is what connects our hearts. And the heart is where real understanding lives. So the next time you're in a conversation, ask yourself, what emotion is this person really communicating? Go beneath the surface. Listen for tone, rhythm, and pauses. Feel for tension or openness. You'll be amazed by how much people reveal when you stop hearing their words and start hearing their hearts. Because understanding people is not about decoding what's obvious. It's about sensing what's unspoken. Emotion is the universal translator of humanity. It allows you to speak to anyone, anywhere. No matter the language, the culture, or the history. It's what makes you human, and what connects you to every other human being on this planet. So if you wish to understand others instantly, Start by honoring the emotions you feel within yourself. When you understand your own sadness, you'll recognize it in others. When you've faced your own anger, you'll know how to meet someone else's without fear. When you've allowed yourself to feel deeply, you'll create space for others to do the same. Because the more fluent you become in the language of emotion, the more naturally you'll connect with anyone at any moment. Emotion is not weakness, it's wisdom. It's the compass that guides understanding. And when you follow it, it will lead you straight into the heart of truth. In the next chapter, we'll go deeper into the most overlooked skill in human connection, the power of listening between the lines. Because sometimes what people don't say says everything. Chapter 4. Listening between the lines. There's a silence that speaks louder than words. You've felt it before, in the pause between someone's sentences, in the way their voice softens just before they change the subject. It's the silence that carries truth, the kind of truth that hides beneath everything that's said out loud. Most people listen only to respond, few listen to understand. But if you want to truly connect with others, if you want to see the world beneath the surface, you must learn to listen not just to what is said, but to what is meant. Real listening is an art. It's not about hearing words, it's about perceiving what lives between them. Every sigh, every pause, every change in tone, they all carry meaning. But in a noisy world, most people are too distracted to notice. We've been conditioned to fill silence, to rush conversations, to interrupt because we fear that stillness means something is wrong. But silence is not the enemy of understanding, it's the gateway to it. When you learn to sit in that silence, to really hear someone without planning your next sentence, something magical happens. People open up. They stop defending. They start revealing, because they can sense that you're not just listening to their voice, you're listening to their being. Listening between the lines requires presence, full, undivided presence. Not the kind where you nod while thinking of what to say next, but the kind where your entire attention leans in. Curious, patient, grounded. It's the kind of listening that says, "You matter. I see you." And often they'll tell you things they've never said to anyone, not because you asked the right question, but because you gave them the right silence. Here's the truth. Most people don't need advice. They don't even need solutions. They just need to be heard, because being heard is the first step toward healing. Every person you meet carries unspoken stories, layers of experience, fear, hope, and pain that rarely find words. When you listen deeply, you give those stories a voice, and in that moment, you become more than a listener, you become a witness. Listening is not passive. It's one of the most powerful forms of love you can offer, because to listen without judgment, without agenda, without rushing, that's to tell someone, "You are safe here." And when a person feels safe, truth emerges naturally. There's a kind of listening that hears tone instead of language, a kind that picks up the tremble in someone's laugh and knows they're not as okay as they sound. It's the kind that notices the difference between "I'm fine" and "I'm really fine." One is a mask, the other is a moment of surrender. When you listen between the lines, you start hearing emotion as much as thought. You begin to feel the rhythm of what someone is trying and failing to say. You'll sense when their words are protecting them instead of expressing them. You'll recognize when they're speaking from fear instead of truth. And once you learn to recognize those layers, compassion replaces judgment. You no longer hear words as weapons, you hear them as shields. You start asking questions that invite honesty instead of defensiveness. You stop assuming, and you start understanding. Listening deeply also reveals something about you, because how you listen says more about your character than how you speak. The impatient listener is ruled by ego, always needing to be right, to be heard, to be clever. But the compassionate listener is ruled by empathy. They understand that wisdom doesn't always come from speaking. Sometimes it comes from stillness. Here's something to think about. The greatest communicators in the world are not the ones who talk the most, they're the ones who listen best. Because when you truly listen, people tell you what matters, they show you who they are, and that knowledge is power, not power over others, but power to connect with them. In your daily life, you can begin practicing this art in the smallest moment. When someone speaks, notice your mind's impulse to reply. Instead, breathe and wait. Let their words settle before you respond. You'll be surprised at how often, in that small pause, they'll say something they were holding back, something that only surfaces in stillness. That's listening between the lines. It's hearing the story beneath the story. It's sensing what's alive behind the words. Sometimes, what people don't say reveals more than what they do. A friend who always changes the subject when family comes up. A colleague who avoids eye contact when discussing success. A partner who jokes about pain to make it sound less heavy. All of these are forms of silent communication, and if you learn to notice them with kindness, you'll see the truth without forcing it. Listening is also a mirror. When you practice listening deeply to others, you start hearing yourself differently too. You begin noticing the tone of your own inner voice, how harsh it can be, how quick it is to judge, how often it interrupts your peace. And once you start listening within, you start healing within. The world doesn't need more people shouting their opinions. It needs more people who listen with their hearts. Because listening creates understanding, and understanding is the foundation of peace. Imagine if every argument, every conflict, every misunderstanding began not with the question, "How do I win?" but with the question, "What is this person really trying to say?" How many relationships would be saved? How many bridges rebuilt? How much pain would dissolve, simply because someone took the time to hear? Listening between the lines isn't about silence alone. It's about presence, awareness, and compassion. It's about recognizing that every human being has an inner voice that longs to be understood. And sometimes, the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. So the next time someone speaks to you, a friend, a stranger, a loved one, listen deeper, not for words, but for truth, not for perfection, but for emotion, not for what's clear, but for what's hidden. Because the beauty of real listening is this: it doesn't just change how others feel around you, it changes who you become. It sharpens your empathy, deepens your understanding, and expands your capacity to love. Listening between the lines teaches you that silence isn't empty. It's full of meaning, full of life, full of unseen stories waiting to be heard. And once you learn to hear those stories, you'll never listen the same way again. In the next chapter, we'll explore a truth that defines every lasting connection: the energy of presence. Because the greatest gift you can give anyone isn't your words, your time, or even your help. It's your full, undivided presence. Chapter 5: The Power of Presence. There's a moment that changes everything, the instant you stop being half here and decide to be fully present. Think about it. How often are you truly here? Not distracted, not thinking ahead, not replaying the past, but completely vividly alive in the now. Most people move through life half awake, lost in noise, chasing time that keeps slipping through their fingers. But the people who truly understand others, the ones who make you feel seen, known, and valued, they all share one rare skill: presence. Presence is more than being in the same room with someone. It's a vibration, a stillness, a kind of attention that makes others feel like the world has stopped just for them. When you're present, people feel it in your energy. When you're not, they feel that too. Have you ever tried to tell someone something important, only to notice their eyes drift to their phone? In that instant, something inside you shuts down. You feel small, invisible, unheard. That's the power of absence, the quiet damage caused by distraction. But the opposite is just as powerful. Think back to the last time someone looked at you, really looked, not to analyze, not to judge, but to understand. It's unforgettable, isn't it? Because in a world of divided attention, undivided presence feels like love. Presence is rare because it demands something most people avoid: stillness. To be present, you must stop performing, stop predicting, stop trying to control how you're perceived. You must be here, raw, aware, and attentive. And that kind of awareness isn't easy, because the mind is always trying to escape the moment. We replay what hurt us yesterday, we worry about what might happen tomorrow, but we forget that the only place we can ever truly meet another person or ourselves is in this very breath, right now. When you master presence, you master connection, because every meaningful conversation, every spark of empathy, every genuine human moment happens only when both people have arrived. Being present isn't about saying the right thing. It's about being the right energy. It's showing up fully, body, mind, and soul, and saying without words, "I'm here with you." Sometimes presence looks like silence, sometimes it looks like laughter, sometimes it's as simple as not reaching for your phone when someone is talking to you. Presence doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to be real. And here's the beautiful thing. When you become more present with others, you start becoming more present with yourself. You begin to notice the small details, the rhythm of your breathing, the warmth of sunlight on your skin, the subtle emotions you used to ignore. You stop living on autopilot and start feeling life again. Because presence isn't only about connection with others, it's also about reconnection with yourself. It's how you begin to understand what you truly think, feel, and want beneath all the noise. There's a quiet power that comes from being grounded in the moment. You stop reacting to life, and you start responding. You stop chasing control, and you start flowing with what is. You stop overthinking people, and you start seeing them. You'll notice it when you walk into a room and meet someone's eyes without anxiety. You'll notice it when a friend shares their pain and you don't rush to fix it, you simply stay. You'll notice it when your presence calms others, not because of what you say, but because of the peace you radiate. That's the real secret of presence. It speaks without sound. It tells others, you don't need to perform here, you can just be. And that's when people reveal who they really are. To understand anyone instantly, you must be where they are. Not in your assumptions, not in your thoughts, but in the present moment, where truth lives. Because the moment you drift into judgment, comparison, or distraction, you lose the thread of connection. But when you stay present, you start noticing the details that others miss, the tension behind their smile, the hesitation before their words, the flicker of emotion that says more than language ever could. That awareness is what separates ordinary observers from true understanders. Presence also teaches you to slow down, to wait a little longer before you speak, to breathe before you react, to give space for someone's truth to unfold at its own pace. When you rush, you only hear fragments, but when you're present, you hear the whole symphony. The best communicators are not the ones who speak with confidence, but the ones who listen with presence. They don't listen to respond, they listen to respond, they listen to receive, and in that stillness, they uncover what others can't see, the soul behind the story. Presence is a discipline. It must be practiced, moment by moment, breath by breath, because the world will constantly pull at your attention. Notifications, noise, endless distraction. But you must choose to return, over and over. Return to this conversation, return to this breath, return to now. And when you do, life begins to expand. You'll feel more connected, more peaceful, more intuitive. People will open up around you, drawn to the calm in your energy. They won't know why, they'll just feel safe. That's what presence does. It doesn't demand attention, it invites trust. It doesn't control the room, it transforms it. It turns ordinary moments into sacred ones. Imagine a world where more people practiced presence, where every conversation was a space of genuine attention, where parents truly saw their children, where partners truly heard each other, where strangers met eyes without fear, but with curiosity and warmth. That's not an impossible dream. It begins with one choice. Your choice to be here, now. Presence doesn't need years to build. It needs one honest moment of awareness. And in that moment, you become magnetic. Because people are starved for presence, they can feel the difference between someone who listens with their ears and someone who listens with their soul. So today, when you meet someone, even briefly, give them that gift. Not your advice, not your judgment, not your impatience, your presence, because presence is the purest form of understanding. It tells the world, I see you. Your presence awakens theirs, and suddenly, you're not just understanding others, you're transforming them. In the next chapter, we'll go deeper into this transformation, into the art of empathy. Because once you've learned to be fully present, the next step is to feel what others feel. Not just with your mind, but with your heart. Chapter 6. The art of doing it anyway. There will always be a reason to wait. A reason to pause. A reason to say, not today. You'll find 100 excuses dressed as logic, and they'll all sound convincing. You'll tell yourself you're not ready. You'll tell yourself the timing isn't right. You'll tell yourself you'll start when you feel more confident, more skilled, more certain. But that day never comes. Because confidence doesn't come before action, it comes after it. The truth is simple, but it's hard to swallow. If you only act when you feel ready, you'll spend your life waiting. There's an art to doing it anyway. To acting even when you're afraid. To stepping forward, especially when doubt whispers that you shouldn't. That's where transformation begins. Not in perfect timing, but in imperfect motion. Think of the most defining moments in your life. Were you completely prepared for them? Probably not. You figured it out as you went. You learned through doing, not through waiting. And every time you acted despite fear, you discovered that you were capable of far more than you believed. The art of doing it anyway isn't about recklessness. It's about courage. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision that something else matters more than fear. Fear says, stay where it's safe. Courage whispers, go anyway. You may fail, you may stumble, you may not get it right the first time, but what's the alternative? To stay frozen in hesitation while life keeps moving forward. To let opportunities pass because the risk of discomfort feels too high. You can't grow without friction. You can't rise without resistance. Every great success story begins with a moment of discomfort, a decision to act before certainty. When you do it anyway, something shifts within you. Your brain learns that fear isn't fatal. Your spirit learns that progress feels better than perfection, and your heart begins to understand that regret is a heavier burden than failure ever will be. Every time you move despite doubt, you rewire the story of who you think you are. You stop seeing yourself as fragile and start seeing yourself as powerful. You stop letting hesitation dictate your path and start leading your life with intent. Doing it anyway is how you reclaim your agency. It's how you stop being a passenger in your own story and start being the author. But here's the secret. You'll never feel fully ready for the things that truly matter. Because the things that matter will always stretch you. They'll always require a leap of faith, a willingness to trust that you can grow into what you're reaching for. Every dream comes with a doorway of fear. Most people stop at the entrance. But the ones who change their lives are the ones who walk through it. So ask yourself, how many moments have you delayed because fear disguised itself as logic? How many chances have you missed, not because you weren't capable, but because you convinced yourself you weren't prepared? Preparation has its place, but it can become a trap. If you spend forever sharpening the blade and never take the first swing, you'll never cut through your limitations. Start where you are, use what you have, do what you can, now. Not when you're ready. Not when it's perfect. Now. Because action is the bridge between potential and reality. Every small step you take chips away at the illusion of fear. Every imperfect attempt brings you closer to mastery. There's a quiet confidence that comes only from movement. It's the voice inside that says, I may not have it all figured out, but I'm already in motion. That voice grows louder with every act of courage. You learn that failure isn't an ending, it's feedback. You learn that discomfort isn't punishment, it's progress. And you learn that doubt isn't truth, it's just noise. When you do it anyway, you stop negotiating with fear and start leading with faith. Faith in your ability to adapt, to learn, to rise. You don't need a perfect plan. You need persistent motion. You don't need absolute clarity. You need consistent courage. And you don't need everything to go right. You just need to keep going when it doesn't. Because every small act of doing it anyway compounds. Every single time you act despite fear, you build a stronger version of yourself. One day you'll look back and realize that the moments you feared most were the ones that shaped you most deeply. The art of doing it anyway isn't glamorous, it's messy, it's uncertain, it's filled with doubt and discomfort, but it's also the birthplace of confidence, growth and self-respect. You don't earn confidence by thinking about who you want to be. You earn it by becoming that person through action, by saying, I'll start before I feel ready, by saying, I'll show up even if I'm scared, by saying, I'll do it anyway. And when you do, something beautiful happens. Life begins to meet you halfway. Doors open that you never saw before. People appear at the right time. Opportunities multiply, not because the world changed, but because you did. So the next time fear stands in your way, remember this: you don't need to feel brave to act brave. You don't need to be ready to begin. You just need to take one step forward, even if your hands shake. Because once you do, you'll realize the truth that's been waiting for you all along. You were never waiting for the right moment. The right moment was always waiting for you. And as you take that step, trembling or not, you'll feel something shift inside. A quiet certainty that whispers, this is how I grow. This is how I rise. This is how I become who I was meant to be. That's the art of doing it anyway. It's the art of moving forward, not because it's easy, but because you know staying still is no longer an option. Now let's go deeper, because beyond courage lies something even greater, the discipline to keep going long after the initial bravery fades. That's where true transformation begins. Chapter 7: Discipline. The bridge between intention and reality. There's a moment, quiet and unseen, where dreams die, not from failure, but from hesitation. It's not when we lose hope, but when we stop doing the things we said we would do. It's the small promises we break to ourselves, the silent excuses that whisper tomorrow. But tomorrow doesn't build greatness. Discipline does. Discipline is the invisible bridge between who you are and who you're trying to become. It's the force that turns vision into motion, and motion into momentum. Without it, even the brightest dream fades into a distant memory, something you once meant to do. Think about it: every goal, every transformation, every success you've ever admired was born from discipline, not motivation, not luck, not fleeting bursts of inspiration, but the quiet, consistent decision to show up, especially on the days when it felt impossible. Motivation is a spark. Discipline is the flame. Motivation starts the journey. Discipline keeps you moving when the excitement fades. There will be mornings when you wake up tired, days when your mind will say, "Not today," and that's exactly when discipline must speak louder. Because discipline is not about feeling ready. It's about doing what's necessary even when you don't. It's the voice inside that says, you don't have to like it, you just have to do it. The truth is, discipline isn't glamorous. It's repetitive, it's demanding, it's often lonely, but it's also the most honest form of self-love you can ever practice. You see, when you keep the promises you make to yourself, you start to trust yourself, and when you trust yourself, confidence follows. That's the hidden reward of discipline. Not just achievement, but self-respect. Every small act of discipline is a declaration of who you are becoming. When you wake up early to work on your craft, that's discipline. When you choose to stay focused while others drift, that's discipline. When you resist the easy way because you know it leads nowhere, that's discipline. And every single time you do, you strengthen the foundation of your future. Discipline isn't a punishment, it's freedom in disguise. It frees you from chaos, from regret, from the weight of inconsistency. It gives you control not over everything, but over yourself. And that's the greatest power any human being can have. Let's be honest, there will always be days when you don't feel like it. You'll be tired, distracted, discouraged. But discipline doesn't ask how you feel, it asks, what do you want most? Because feelings change, goals don't. And if you let temporary emotions decide permanent outcomes, you'll keep resetting your life instead of rising in it. Discipline demands sacrifice, time, comfort, instant pleasure. But what you gain in return is immeasurable: clarity, peace, direction, purpose. The more disciplined you become, the quieter your excuses get, and the quieter your excuses get, the louder your potential becomes. Discipline also reveals truth. It shows you what truly matters. It exposes where you've been wasting time and where your energy actually creates change. And over time, it transforms you, not through a single moment of inspiration, but through countless small acts of consistency that compound into something unstoppable. Every repetition, every commitment, every step you take builds an invisible record of proof inside you. Proof that you are capable, proof that you are strong, proof that you are in control. And that proof becomes power. It's not about being perfect, it's about being persistent. It's not about doing everything, it's about doing what matters most, again and again. Discipline doesn't mean you never rest or relax. It means you've decided what deserves your time, and you protect that decision with action. It means you no longer live by impulse, you live by intention. Remember this: life doesn't give you what you wish for, it gives you what you work for. And the work is rarely exciting. It's often quiet, repetitive, unseen. But that's where greatness is built, in the unseen hours when no one's watching, and you keep showing up anyway. Every disciplined person you admire once faced the same resistance you feel now. The difference is, they didn't let it win. They learned that the hardest part isn't doing the work. The hardest part is starting over and over again, until starting becomes your second nature. Discipline is how you take control of your story. It's how you stop drifting through life and start directing it. It's how you turn your someday into today. And yes, it's hard, but so is living with regret. So is looking back one day and realizing you had everything you needed to change, but never did. Discipline asks you to pay the price now so you can live free later. It asks for discomfort today in exchange for pride tomorrow. And that trade, that quiet exchange, is what separates the people who talk about change from the people who create it. So the next time you want to quit, remind yourself why you started. Remind yourself that growth doesn't come from convenience, it comes from consistency. And even when progress feels invisible, it's still happening. Because every act of discipline is an act of becoming. It's becoming the kind of person who doesn't wait for the perfect moment, the kind who shows up even when it's inconvenient, the kind who turns ordinary days into stepping stones towards something extraordinary. Discipline builds everything that lasts: success, respect, love, peace, legacy. It is the quiet architect behind every strong life. So hold the line, keep showing up, not for applause, not for recognition, but because this moment, this choice, this action is how you honor your potential. Because the bridge between intention and reality isn't made of dreams, it's made of discipline. And as you cross it, step by step, you'll realize something profound. You were never waiting for motivation. You were waiting for yourself to decide. Now that you have, the next chapter begins. The chapter where consistency meets growth, and effort becomes transformation. Chapter 8. The Power of Consistency. Becoming unstoppable through repetition. There's a quiet force that shapes every great life. Not talent, not luck, not genius. It's consistency. The small, almost invisible decisions you make every single day that over time build the structure of who you become. Think about it. A river doesn't carve through rock because of its strength, but because it never stops flowing. That's what consistency is. It's steady movement, persistent effort. The willingness to keep showing up long after the excitement has faded. Most people underestimate how powerful repetition can be. They quit, not because they're incapable, but because they can't handle the boredom of doing what works. They chase new ideas, new methods, new distractions, thinking progress should feel exciting all the time. But the truth is, mastery often feels monotonous, and that's exactly why so few ever reach it. Consistency is not glamorous, it's not dramatic, it's the quiet commitment to keep watering the seed even when you can't see anything growing yet. It's doing the work no one applauds, the daily, ordinary actions that compound into something extraordinary. You've probably heard people say, it's not how hard you work, it's how long you work hard. That's the truth of consistency. Anyone can push for a day, few can persist for a decade. Success doesn't come from intensity, it comes from endurance, from the ability to stay the course when everyone else gets distracted, from being faithful to your vision even when results seem slow, unclear, or unfair. Consistency doesn't mean perfection. It doesn't mean you never miss a day, never make a mistake, or never fall short. It means that when you fall, you get back up. When you fail, you learn. And when you drift, you return. That's the secret. Returning, coming back again and again, no matter how many times life tests your patience, your faith, or your will. Because consistency is not about doing everything right, it's about refusing to stay wrong for too long. Look at any person who has achieved something lasting, an artist, an athlete, an entrepreneur, a thinker, a teacher, and you'll find the same truth hiding beneath their story. They didn't become great overnight, they became great over time. They stayed consistent long enough for time to reveal what talent alone never could. And here's what's fascinating. Consistency changes not only what you do, but who you are. Every repeated action writes a line in your identity. Each time you follow through, you reinforce a belief. I'm someone who keeps going, and that belief becomes your strength. It becomes the armor that protects you from doubt, laziness, and fear. But inconsistency does the opposite. It teaches your mind to expect less of itself. Every time you quit halfway, your brain remembers. It starts to whisper, you won't finish this either. And that whisper becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's why consistency isn't just about effort, it's about identity. When you decide to be consistent, you're rewriting who you are. You're saying, I don't just do hard things. I'm the kind of person who doesn't give up. The moment you make that shift, everything changes. Because now your habits are no longer negotiations, they're declarations. You don't ask yourself if you feel like doing it, you simply do it because it's who you are. Consistency is the builder of momentum, and momentum is magic. It's the invisible force that makes hard things easier over time. The first day feels heavy. The second feels tolerable, the third becomes normal, and suddenly, what once felt impossible becomes automatic. That's how transformation happens, not through massive leaps, but through small steps repeated with purpose. There's a reason most people start strong and fade away. They mistake consistency for excitement. They think it's about feeling inspired every day, but real consistency has nothing to do with inspiration. It's built on integrity. It's doing what you said you'd do, long after the feeling that made you say it has passed. Consistency demands faith. Faith that the process is working even when you can't see it. Faith that every drop of effort counts, even when the bucket still looks empty. and faith that time is not your enemy, but your greatest ally, if you stay the course. Think about the gym goer who quits after 2 weeks because they don't see change, while someone else keeps showing up for 6 months, a year, 2 years, and transforms completely. The difference isn't in ability, it's in endurance, the willingness to stay consistent long enough for results to catch up. Because the truth is, results are always delayed. There's always a gap between the work you put in and the reward you receive, and most people quit inside that gap. They stop just before things were about to turn. But not you. You've come too far to stop now. You're learning to fall in love with the process, not just the outcome. You're learning to trust that slow progress is still progress. That repetition is the rhythm of mastery. Consistency turns chaos into order. It takes dreams out of your head and builds them into your life, brick by brick. Every habit you repeat becomes a foundation stone. Every day you show up adds another layer to the structure of your future. So stop searching for the next shortcut, the next burst of motivation, the next big secret. You already know the answer. It's in the quiet act of doing what matters, again and again, until it becomes who you are. Let your consistency become your signature. Let your daily effort become your legacy. Because when you look back one day, you'll realize it wasn't the big moments that changed you. It was the small ones, repeated 1,000 times, until they built a life you're proud to live. And that's the real magic of consistency. It doesn't just create success, it creates stability, peace, confidence. It turns potential into power. So keep going, even when it's slow, even when it's hard, even when no one notices. Because every consistent action plants a seed, and one day, when you least expect it, that seed will bloom into something you once only imagined. And when it does, you'll understand, you didn't just stay consistent, you became unstoppable. Now, as we move into the next chapter, we'll explore what happens when consistency meets patience, and how timing, trust, and perseverance combine to create breakthroughs that no amount of rushing could ever achieve. Chapter 9. The Hidden Power of Stillness. There comes a moment in every person's life when noise no longer inspires them, it exhausts them. When the constant motion, conversation, and distraction of the world start to feel like a weight pressing against the soul. That's the moment you begin to crave stillness, not silence as in the absence of sound, but stillness as in the presence of peace. You can feel it even now, can't you? That quiet longing inside of you that wants to stop chasing, stop proving, stop running. You've been carrying the weight of expectations, your own and everyone else's, and somewhere along the way, you forgot that your mind was never meant to move this fast, this constantly, this restlessly. Stillness isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's the decision to step back, breathe, and return to yourself before the world tells you who to be again. Think about it. When was the last time you truly sat in silence? No phone, no scrolling, no background noise, and simply listened, not to others, not to the world, but to your own mind, your own truth. If you did, you'd notice something miraculous. Beneath the chaos of thought, there is a steady rhythm, a calm, quiet awareness that's always been there. It's your inner voice, the one you've ignored because the world made too much noise for you to hear it clearly. Stillness is not just rest, it's revelation. In stillness, you meet the version of yourself that isn't performing, the version that doesn't need validation or applause, the version that doesn't chase success to feel worthy, because it already knows its worth. When you begin to practice stillness, you start to see life differently. You realize how much time you've spent reacting instead of responding, how much energy you've wasted trying to control what was never yours to control, and how much clarity you gain when you stop trying to think your way through every problem and instead feel your way through it. The world teaches you to always be doing, to hustle, to move, to achieve, but growth often hides in the pause between actions. Wisdom whispers in the space between thoughts. Peace waits patiently for the moment you finally stop chasing it. There's a story of an artist who once stared at a blank canvas for hours. When asked what he was doing, he replied, "I'm waiting until the painting appears in my mind." That is stillness, not inactivity, but deep preparation. It's the discipline of waiting until your actions come from alignment, not anxiety. And isn't that what we all crave? Alignment. To move through life with purpose instead of pressure. To act from clarity instead of chaos. That's what stillness gives you, not less movement, but better direction. When you slow down, you stop living reactive. You begin to notice the subtle signals life sends you. A conversation that carries deeper meaning, a gut feeling that quietly warns you, a new idea that sparks from nowhere. These aren't coincidences, they are guidance. But you can only hear them in silence. Think of your mind like a lake. When the surface is disturbed, all you see are ripples, distorted, unclear reflections. But when the water is still, it becomes a perfect mirror, reflecting truth with clarity. Your thoughts work the same way. When they're restless, they distort your reality. When they're calm, they reveal it. Stillness is not about escaping the world. It's about returning to it renewed. When you take time to be still, truly still, you become sharper, more intentional, and more grounded. You make decisions that come from depth, not impulse. You begin to see that what once felt urgent often wasn't important at all. So how do you find stillness in a world built on distraction? You don't wait for the world to slow down, you slow yourself down. You create small sacred spaces in your day. A few minutes in the morning, before touching your phone, a quiet walk without headphones, a moment of deep breathing before you react to something stressful. Stillness isn't a luxury, it's a lifeline. It reconnects you with yourself before the noise of life pulls you apart again. And over time, something shifts. You stop needing to respond to every message immediately. You stop craving validation from others. You stop letting the chaos outside determine the calm inside. You realize that peace was never missing. It was just buried under layers of noise. There's immense power in simply being. The kind of power that doesn't shout but radiates. The kind that doesn't need recognition because it already understands its own value. When you master stillness, you master presence, and presence is where real life happens. Not in yesterday's regrets, not in tomorrow's worries, but in this breath, this moment right now. And perhaps that's the greatest lesson of all, that stillness isn't about stopping the noise around you. It's about finding the quiet within you that cannot be touched by it, because once you find that place, no chaos can take it away. You can walk through storms and still feel centered. You can face uncertainty and still feel grounded. You can lose what you thought you needed and still feel whole. That is the hidden power of stillness. It's not an escape from life, it's the beginning of truly living it. It's where strength meets serenity, where action meets awareness, and where you finally remember who you are beneath everything the world told you to be. As you step forward, carry this truth with you. You don't need to chase peace, you need to create space for it. And when you do, life itself begins to speak in ways you've never heard before. Because silence, when you learn to listen, has its own kind of wisdom. And stillness, when you learn to trust it, becomes your greatest source of power. Now that you've discovered the depth that lives in quiet moments, the question becomes, what will you hear when you finally stop running and start listening? That is where we'll begin, in the next chapter. Chapter 10. Becoming the Observer, Mastering the Art of Understanding Anyone. Have you ever noticed how some people seem to understand the world effortlessly, and everyone around them as if they carry a map of human behavior in their mind? They move through conversations with ease, sense tension before it arises, and connect in ways that feel almost magical. But what if I told you their magic is not magic at all? It's something far more accessible. It's the art of observation, the skill of truly seeing people, not just their words, but their unspoken truths, their patterns, their fears, and their desires. The world is full of people trying to be understood. Few are trying to understand, and yet, understanding is the greatest gift you can give, and the most powerful tool you can wield. It opens doors, builds trust, creates connections that last. It turns conflict into clarity, confusion into insight, and strangers into allies. The first step in understanding anyone is to become the observer, not the critic, not the judge. Simply the observer. Watch, listen, feel. Notice the subtleties that most people overlook. A pause before a word, a glance that lingers too long, a gesture that betrays uncertainty. These are the breadcrumbs that lead you to the truth beneath the surface. Consider a moment from your own life. Perhaps someone close to you was upset, yet they said everything was fine. What gave them away? A sigh, a hesitation, a tightness around their eyes. Observing these details is not about scrutiny. It is about empathy. It is about tuning into the silent language that people speak when they believe no one is listening. Observation alone, however, is not enough. It must be paired with patience. The human mind is a labyrinth. Understanding does not come in a single glance, a single conversation, or even a single day. It unfolds over time, layer by layer, moment by moment. Patience allows you to witness behavior without forcing interpretation, to let truth reveal itself without rushing to judgment. Another key principle is suspension of assumptions. Every interaction you have comes wrapped in your own expectations, biases, and fears. If you assume, you misread. If you judge prematurely, you block connection. The observer watches without overlaying their own narrative, a neutral witness to the reality of another person's experience. And here is where true understanding begins to transform into power. Because when you see clearly, you act wisely. You choose words that resonate, gestures that comfort, responses that align with what the other person truly needs, not what you think they need. You navigate life not by forcing outcomes, but by guiding energy in ways that create harmony and insight. But let us go deeper. Understanding anyone is not just about external observation, it is about internal awareness. You must first understand your own triggers, your own patterns, your own blind spots. You cannot truly perceive another until you perceive yourself. When you know your mind, your fears and your tendencies, you stop projecting them onto others. You become clear, and clarity breeds empathy. One of the most profound aspects of observation is listening with your whole body. Notice how someone moves, the tone of their voice, the rhythm of their speech, the tension in their hands, the pace of their breath. People speak with more than words, and the observer knows how to hear it all. They feel what is unsaid. They sense what is withheld, and in doing so they gain insight into intentions, motivations, and emotions that most people miss entirely. Let me give you a simple exercise. The next time you meet someone, instead of preparing what to say, prepare to listen. Observe their body, the cadence of their voice, the emotion behind their words. Ask yourself, what are they not saying? What do their gestures reveal? Let the silence between words be as meaningful as the words themselves. This practice alone will transform your perception and deepen your understanding beyond measure. Understanding is also about timing. Do not rush a revelation. Do not demand confessions or truths. Human behavior unfolds in patterns, and the observer notices these patterns over time. A repeated gesture, a recurring phrase, a consistent emotional response. These are the signals that lead to deep understanding. The impatient mind misses them. The patient observer absorbs them. And here is the ultimate truth. Once you master observation, patience, self-awareness, and timing, you will see the world differently. People will no longer seem unpredictable, confusing, or distant. You will recognize the motives, the desires, and the fears that drive action. You will navigate relationships with grace, insight, and subtle influence, not manipulation, but mastery. The mastery of human connection. But understanding anyone is not about control. It is about alignment. It is about meeting people where they are and guiding them, and yourself, with respect, clarity, and compassion. It's the difference between talking at someone and truly connecting with them. And that difference transforms every relationship, every encounter, and every opportunity in your life. So take a deep breath and embrace your role as the observer. Step back, see clearly, listen fully, and suspend judgment. Notice the details others overlook. Feel what is beneath the surface and understand before reacting. And in doing so, you will create a presence that is magnetic, trusted, and deeply insightful. Because the power to understand anyone is not a talent reserved for the few. It is a skill cultivated with awareness, patience, and empathy. It is the art of observing life without rushing, judging, or assuming. It is the quiet mastery that turns noise into clarity, strangers into allies, and ordinary interactions into profound connection. And as you carry this skill forward, remember, understanding is the highest form of respect, the most potent form of influence, and the gateway to both wisdom and compassion. When you combine observation, patience, empathy, and self-awareness, you do more than understand people. You transform the way they experience you, and ultimately, the way you experience life itself. Now, with this final piece of insight, the journey we began together comes full circle. You are no longer just a participant in life. You are an observer. You are a listener. You are a student of human nature, armed with the awareness to see beneath appearances and connect with authenticity. Carry this skill with care, use it wisely, and know that the path of understanding anyone is not a destination. It is a lifelong journey, a journey that begins within, radiates outward, and transforms every interaction into an opportunity for connection, insight, and true human understanding. This is the art you now hold, the ability to understand anyone instantly, with clarity, patience, and empathy. And as you move forward, remember, every person you meet is a story waiting to be understood, a world waiting to be seen, and you, the observer, hold the key. Finale, the journey of connection and clarity. Take a moment and imagine the people in your life, your family, your friends, colleagues, even strangers you pass by every day. Now imagine seeing them as you've never seen them before, truly seeing them, not just their actions, but the emotions behind those actions, not just their words, but the meaning beneath those words, not just their surface, but the life, the fears, the desires, and the stories they carry. This is the power you now hold. Because understanding is not a skill you can outgrow. It is a lens through which you experience life. It transforms chaos into clarity, frustration into patience, and conflict into connection. Every chapter of this journey was a step toward awakening that power within you. We began by learning to notice the subtle cues, the hidden emotions, the patterns that guide human behavior. We explored listening, observing, patience, stillness, and self-awareness, the tools that unlock deeper perception. We discovered how empathy, presence, and patience create bonds that words alone cannot build. And in the final chapter, we embraced the role of the observer, the listener, the guide, someone who sees clearly, acts intentionally, and connects authentically. But let this truth sink in. Understanding is not a destination. It is a practice, a way of being, a commitment to notice the invisible threads that connect all people. It is choosing to slow down, to truly pay attention, and to meet others where they are without judgment or assumption. It is listening with your heart as much as your ears. And here is the most profound insight. The more you understand others, the more you understand yourself. Each person you observe reflects a mirror of your own fears, desires, and possibilities. Each connection deepens your awareness, your compassion, and your ability to navigate the world with clarity. Carry this wisdom with you into every interaction. Approach life as an observer, a student of human nature, and a practitioner of empathy. Notice the pauses, the subtle glances, the unspoken words. Let patience guide your understanding, and let awareness shape your actions. With each person you meet, you have the power to transform not only their experience, but your own. Remember this: understanding is not about control, manipulation, or prediction. It is about alignment, connection, and presence. It is about seeing the world as it truly is, beneath appearances, beyond assumption. It is about giving the gift of clarity, empathy, and insight to yourself and to everyone around you. So step forward into the world with curiosity and compassion. Speak less, listen more, observe deeply, respond intentionally. Notice the invisible, feel the unspoken, and honor the story within every person you encounter. The world will feel different now, people will feel different now, and you, the observer, the listener, the guide, will be different now. This is not the end of your journey. It is the beginning of a life lived with awareness, connection, and understanding. Carry it with care, nurture it, and let it shape every moment, every relationship, and every decision. Because when you truly understand anyone, instantly, you unlock a life of clarity, empathy, and profound connection. A life where you are no longer just moving through the world, you are engaging with it, consciously, powerfully, and wisely. And that is the ultimate gift of this journey, not just knowledge, but transformation, not just understanding others, but understanding life itself. Step forward, observe, listen, connect, and remember, the world will reveal itself to you in ways you never imagined, the moment you choose to truly see. This is your life, your clarity, your connection. And now it is yours to master.